click the button. Hi everyone, a very good morning on a Saturday morning. I know the schedules look very busy, but we are pleasure to have Manasi here, who is going to talk about business aspects of AI. She will primarily cover building business relations for AI, AI talent gap, and how to pitch a AI solution. So first, let me introduce you to Manasi. Manasi has 15 plus years of professional experience holding diversified roles and responsibilities in the areas of enterprise sales, key strategic partner alliance, business planning, and go to market. She is a tech enthusiast who loves to network as well as learn from personal, professional, and leadership communities that she is an active member of, like Digital Futurist, DF Groups, Lean in India, SAPE, etc. Currently, she's a part of the digital business team in HCL Technologies as a senior director, managing multiple key accounts in her portfolio in India and Australia. She is an enthusiastic and hopeful about the future of AI and its increasing use cases in India to support the growing business opportunities and cost optimization to help stay competitive in the global market. She says automation and AI needs to be married into the concept of key digitalization programs in large MNCs to help them scale with the time and monitor efficiencies for quality and customer service. When not working, she is a creative artist trying to juggle her passion between art, writing, and reading about with teaching her daughter to be as cool as her mom. So, a very warm welcome, Mansi, and it's a great pleasure to have you here. So, so let's first hear out from her. Like, why did what interested her in AI, and what she thinks about the role of AI, business opportunities, and whatnot. Yeah, it's up to you now,
Yeah,
Mansi.
thank you so much. A very good morning to everybody who's joined. Thank you, Sharmi, first of all, for inviting me into a platform that I find a little technical at this point of the time, simply because I'm just a simple sales and a business development person. I can tell you definitely that artificial intelligence is not something that has been drawing attention for me, at least as a person, just today, but even as a computer science student many years ago. Yes, I'm that old. But I think this whole concept about how artificial intelligence, neural networks are getting developed, smart machines are being built, has been around for at least 2 decades now. And if I start with my journey, I think the first instance of such a smart machine, and most of you guys might remember Gary Kaprov being, the legendary chess player, and he went live against IBM's Deep Blue, right? I think that was one of the first instances which kind of triggered me to understand what is machine coding, what is artificial intelligence. The journey actually started from there, and nowadays I think everything from Minecraft to StarCraft, where you have your Alpha Star, Alpha Go 2, etc. These are all um, artificial intelligences that are playing against live users in complex programs. So I think
Can
that
you join up from
journey
phone? You're
on
breaking.
games. Am I
Also, join
breaking?
from your phone. You're
Okay,
breaking. Just give us a
okay.
second.
Give me a
The
minute.
network is
I'll just try.
bad. Yeah, I will add the. Go ahead, Mansi. Go ahead.
Am I audible now? Okay. Anyways, I'll keep my
Yeah.
headset. Yeah. So I don't know till you hear my chatter, but what I was trying to say is Hold on, I have an echo. Not sure why. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, so as I was saying, so from computer games to now, I think there has been recent so many breakthroughs that all of us as common users keep hearing. There was this recent breakthrough, I don't know how many of you have heard about it. It's called pose estimation, right? And this was developed by the fellows at MIT. What pose estimation does is basically it uses neural networks where, say, for example, a person is walking in front of the wall, and the camera is detecting the motion of this person, and then this person goes at the back of the wall. The neural networks still continue to map where the position of this person would be, right? It's called a confidence mapping. And of course, these kind of cases will have a lot of use case with military, CIA, etc. So that's an interesting one. Another popular, and I'm just answering a question, Sharmisha, again. How did I get interested in AI, right? And I'll come to the business aspect of it. Another one is called the generative adversarial networks, GANs. And the simplest use case for that is the deepfakes that we see nowadays, right? The deepfakes are basically where neural networks again can start mapping the points of, say, for example, there's a Van Gogh painting, right? Pixel to pixel, it can learn what's the painting style of this painter, and then can reproduce an almost original, we can't call it original, but almost a copy of the original painting. The NFTs have started using these kind of technologies nowadays. It can also produce, so for example, there's a famous celebrity or a politician, it can produce images nowadays using this kind of predictive analytics. So and a lot of large corporations have started using a lot of products with these kind of machine learning nowadays. So these are some of the use cases as a consumer that interests me, and there are many ways to apply this into the business world as well. Now coming to the business part of it, I think a large number of artificial intelligence, as we all know it, comprises, at least my understanding is, this goes hand in hand with the subsets of your um, what we call as deep learning, DL, and then machine learning as well, right? And these are subsets of it. So when the machine learns through an unsupervised format and then starts applying it to predict what is just not there today, but what can also be, that's where the actually predictive environment gets started out, right? So in business cases, I think across all verticals that I have managed or seen, everything from pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, telecommunications, um, I can say finance. Of course, finance is a no-brainer. All of these find a lot of relatability, right? Um, I feel in today's world, data science is not just another fancy word to use, but in a lot of ways, it can be applied across organization, not only for industry for their customers, but internally for the organization itself as well. And maybe because my journey has been through from a product to a service organization as well, I can see how data science fits into the projects as a product company versus a service company, where you're supporting the projects that the product companies are developing, right, for the customers, the actual implementation and deployment. So I'll just take a pause. You're on mute.
So you were talking about like how the retailers were also using machine learning. Do you want to talk about that ad, and we should play the ad in the Cadbury ad
Actually, that's an
campaign?
interesting. Yep, that's a fantastic one. I'm hoping that you guys will also like it. I just saw this recently. Why don't you play the ad?
Yeah, let me play it.
Yep.
So here it
Big
is.
businesses and brands that suffered during the pandemic found their way back, but the smaller stores still suffer. This lockdown has been a real tough phase of my life. I mean, I have seen bad days, but this was the worst. Last year, we helped small businesses through Diwali. So this year, we decided to bring it back. Presenting not just a Cadbury ad. This Diwali, we helped hundreds of small businesses by making India's biggest brand ambassador be their brand ambassador. इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास वाले फैशन नोवा एम्पोरियम से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना और फिर एम्पायर फुटवेयर नाम तो सुना होगा अपना स्टाइलिश चश्मा बगल वाले हेवन आई ऑप्टिशियन से ही लेना सिद्धि विनायक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स से लेटेस्ट स्मार्टफोन खरीद कर धमाकेदार सेल्फी पोस्ट करना क्या कर रहे हो मीठा लाए कि नहीं लाए हो ना यार अपने पास वाले रोशन किराना से आप भी अपना मीठा वहीं से लेना We used machine learning to recreate Shah Rukh Khan's face and voice to take the local store names in the ads. इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास वाले चॉइस ऑफ फैशन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना पास वाले आजकल फैशन से ही रॉयल फैशन से ही एनके क्लॉथ से ही पास वाले लक्ष्मी कलेक्शन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना इस दिवाली आप Different versions of the same ad with local store names were targeted as per the pin code of the viewer, showing them only the nearby stores. But it is impossible to cover all the stores. So we gave the power to the people to create their own version of not just a Cadbury ad. Any small business owner could promote their stores through their own social media networks like WhatsApp forwards and other social media pages. शाहरुख खान मेरी दुकान ले आए हमारे आसपास की जो दुकानें हैं उनकी दिवाली भी तो मीठी होनी चाहिए Cadbury celebrations, not just a Cadbury ad.
Yeah, what a wonderful way of showing things, right? The impact of machine learning. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I found this extremely relatable, and keeping the festive spirit in mind, I think this is fantastic. What Cadbury's has brought into, and this is not just about AI. I think this is a great example of apt and relatable marketing. So in all ways, I mean, hats off to them for just creating this, and this will. These kind of things will continue. So this is a brilliant use case of AI in marketing, as we would call it, right? We are not just promoting the local brands per se, but we are also able to, so the same video format can be used in multiple, so the reusability of the codes is very very essential, right, for cost optimization. I mean, that's how salespeople think. But yeah, so that's just, I just wanted you guys to have a look at it. I'm sure most of you guys might have had a look at it before as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Means the how we can customize it for local stores and who needs a boost. Means most of importantly, how do we get promote sales, attract more people to buy, and reusing things. That's the most important, as you have talked about, like reusing things and having more customized versions of machine learning. Just maybe changing the location or changing the who all uses it. That caters to the more usefulness of their solution that we are looking for. So,
Absolutely.
Mansi, can you highlight one most impactful business use case other than this, which you have seen in your experience that has provided a larger impact to the business?
I definitely can tell you in hush hush words, because this is just work in progress still. But before I address you to that, this is something that I've observed, and probably you guys can pitch in and tell me what you think. When we use AI in marketing versus in sales, there's a key difference, right, in the approach. And I'm again going as a business person here. In business, when we use AI, right? So, for example, the most popular use cases would be something like a lead scoring, right, or a demand forecasting, right? Those are the key areas where we will be using sales. In sales, we try to figure out who are the customers, the right set of customers, and then based on those customers, we try and figure out what's the best. What are their problems, the organizational problems? If it's a B2C selling, then we try and figure out what is the conglomerate of the stack of products that we have, and we pick a product and then we sell it to them. That's a sales approach of it, right? In marketing, the way AI is implemented, and that's how I've seen it, I beg to be corrected otherwise, is they target markets first. They say that, hey, this is a product, we need to sell this product, and we'll find the customer for it, right? They do not go looking for the customer like we do in sales. They find the product and they say, now I'll have to sell this product, and what's the target market for this product, and then they go finding customer 1, 5, 8, right, and ignore the ones in between. And this model keeps on shifting based on economic preferences, the consumption models, etc. So I think that's an interesting observation that I've seen, the different ways in which AI adapts between these two. And it's using lead scoring in both. Um, and if I come back to your question, AI in finance or AI in telcos, etc., the verticals that at least I have seen managing. So there is an interesting case study, say for example in telecommunication, right, where the telecommunication joins. What we basically were trying to do, so in telecommunication, which is a very very competitive market at this point of the time, right, a lot of the telecommunication companies nowadays worldwide, especially the top ones, they do not consider themselves just as a telephone provider or a network provider. They consider themselves as entertainment provider, as technology companies in whole, right? And that's how they like to be represented. Of which, of these technologies, 5G being one of the most key aspects, right? Which not only enhances the customer connectivity, but also the experience. So the CSAT for them, the customer satisfaction, is very very important. So in telcos, I think preventive maintenance is of key essential here, because they are very very cost competitive. They would like to fix and address issues before they are happening, so they keep doing maintenance. But where are you doing these maintenance are very very important for them. And this has a lot of relatability to how we are applying AI for preventive maintenance in manufacturing as well. So what we do, and so for the first case in telecommunication, a couple of things, and I can just probably tell you 2 or 3 things that we have done. One is, by we I mean, the cases where we have worked on the projects. One is called scheduled maintenance, right? And how we have used is, we have applied a team of people who have been in the support system for these companies. So it's called the scheduled maintenance checkups, right? And how does AI help in there? So these scheduled maintenance checkup looks at the AI looks at the whole conglomerate of historical data, where the break points could have been, the failures in the maintenance of, say for example, if it's a telecommunication, so they look between tower to tower where the breakups have happened before, and they start monitoring those more frequently than the other towers. For example, some remote locations will have a little more monitoring and maintenance than, say, something which is at the heart of a city, right? They will also have, but the AI also predicts what are the equipments which are likely to cause failures, what are the networks which are likely to cause more failures. So it will try and monitor and analyze that kind of data, keep it in reserve, and keep on doing the checkups if required. They will tune up those maintenance points, and then keep coming back at it at some frequency which may not be consistent across the other networks. So the whole expertise to figure out which points of failures these might be in, what is the frequency, we really need somebody, a team of data scientists who can understand and analyze that kind of a pattern. So that's one thing that is being done. The other thing is called demand forecasting, right? As I said, that telcos are a very competitive market. So just based on historical data, so for example, if you're looking at what was the profitability of a company in the last year, YOY, if you look at 5 years data, that's not enough, because the telco market is changing rapidly at this point of the time. So if they want to expand their business, just instead of just looking at their historical data, they also have to look at something like, what is the current governance, what is the regulatory policies that are being put in, what is the consumption data. 5 years back, there was not a lot of social media that was being generated for telcos, especially. There was not a lot of OTT platform, especially not, I mean, telcos didn't get into OTT platform. OTT platform in itself is a very new concept. A lot of telcos are picking up on that now, right? Especially the social media and the OTT platform of it. So that's a new usage pattern that has come up. So the demand forecasting for the company, telecommunication company specifically, they would like to see what can happen in the next 12 months, the 4 quarter of time, right? Basis on all of these landscapes out. And they would like us to give them a recommendation of where they should, put more focus on technology. There's a little bit of a consulting work in here as well, not just service and support. So we try and tell them, hey, why don't you focus on these areas? Maybe if you have a legacy system, maybe you should look at changing that from on premises to an cloud platform, and so on and so forth. The how of it is very easily done once you know what needs to be fixed out. So that's another thing that we have done apart from preventive maintenance, is the demand forecasting. This is for the company's growth itself. And the third one, again, if I come back to, as I said, between, we went from 2G to 3G and now the 5G of the market, and everybody's trying to adapt to it, and we don't really know how to optimize it. So network optimization, which is a very complex network in itself, which keeps changing over time. The parameters keep changing over the time, right? And you would be very well familiar with that. So the internal models will keep shifting, and that's the work where parts of AI, which is the neural networks, will keep mapping what's the change happening. How do we adapt to the change? Is the network stronger somewhere? How do we increase the optimization of these networks? So analyzing the data for this is very, very important, and that's where you give the optimization results, or you give the sprint points for this. So these are the three ways in which we try to optimize it. Now, I like to step back and say that technology is just technology, right? It is being created by humans. I feel when we are talking about all of this, who's driving this entire technology for the companies, right? Um, that's where it is important to identify the right set of talents and resources, right? Data science in itself, I think, is a very new, I mean, the way it is shaped today, it's a very new subject. Finding the right skill sets is even a little more like a treasure hunt. And I can tell you that when we started off initially, it was almost like we were trying to figure out, this has to be a data scientist, he has to understand the business processes, for example. There can be a data architect. So let me take an AI architect, right, who has a data background before. So this person having many, many years of industry, he would know parts of manufacturing, maybe telco, maybe finance as well. And he really understands what is AI, what are the tools, the frameworks that it needs to be used out. But if we put him in a project, say, for example, in finance, right, there might be just a few common usabilities that he can use from his understanding of the technology. He really needs to understand the business process, and it will be very different from that of a telco or a retail or a commerce giant, right? So it's very important that the right skill set is identified, who has a business acumen and the data acumen, both of it, right? The technology expertise of
Yeah,
it.
very rightly
Um,
said. The business acumen and the technical knowledge has to be go hand in hand together to be successful in data science, AI, ML projects. And yeah, of course, go ahead, Manasi. And also to talk about some of the sales parameters that one should look into account. The sales, marketing, as well as people from our technical background should always have a knowledge of it, the basic factors, parameters, KPIs.
That's interesting. Okay. So just to address the first one, as I was saying, when we started out, we were trying to find this one unicorn person who has everything, right? And we quickly figured out it's probably unfair for one person. It's something like, think of a full stack engineer 10 years back, right? I mean, how would one person have the understanding of? They can if they have the knack for it, but those people you will find far and fewer, right? So the more if you have to adapt these kind of resources, if you have to scale an account with these kind of good resources, you will have to look at a at a team instead of one person having all these skill sets. So then what we started identifying are squads of people who have a mix of business skills, maybe analysts, maybe architects, and then data scientists as well. So I think at this point of the industry, we are still maturing, right? uh, we have other careers that needs to be developed, where, say for example, a data analyst who wants to get into a career as a data scientist, if he gets into a course, he will, that course content needs to have certain skill sets where they are talking about soft skills, for example, right? How would you talk to a business leader when you're trying to articulate the technology? It might sound very simple and naive at this point of the time, but a CFO, if you're trying to tell a CFO that, hey, you know what, your company is incurring losses because our predictive analytics show that these are the points where you're getting faulted every year, right? Your 401k report shows that this is where you guys are missing. The CFO might not find relatability for those kind of statements, but when you can actually tell them that, hey, these are the points, I think these are the businesses where you have not focused a lot in the last years, or these are the legacy systems where you would want to have a relook at, and if you can cost optimize them, then maybe he starts relooking at your insights. I'll tell you a very interesting, again, this is, I'm not again talking from a very technical standpoint. I'm talking from what I have observed as the AI maturity in an organization or across several organizations, right? Um, so, we usually, when we approach an organization, we approach a company, we look at what stage of AI maturity it is, right? I mean, so are they at a descriptive stage? Are they at a prescriptive stage? Are they at a diagnostic stage? And or are they at a predictive stage, right? So how are they different? So just to give you a quick example here. Descriptive AI maturity stage is where, so think of an organization having three components, basically, right? In terms of AI journey. One is you're capturing the data, right? All big data, small data, whatever, all sorts of unstructured data that you have in an organization, coming from internal agents, coming from the customers, etc., from their process systems, frameworks, whatever, right? Then you analyze the data. That's number two. And number three is when you are making a prediction out of the data, right? The insight, and you're making a decision out of it, right? If you are spending, if as an organization you're spending most of your time right now in capturing the data, right? It's just capturing the data, and then some part of it in analyzing the data. You're just looking at how, what kind of data there are is coming from social media, etc., and you're making small reports. It's still on very much on Excels, etc., and you're making PPTs and PDFs out of it. And then maybe a little bit of a decision making on it. You're maybe the data scientist in the organization, or maybe the data analyst, is giving these insights back to an exec sponsor, but the exec sponsor are not taking. So there's a lack of sponsorship from an executive level. This is a very nascent journey of this organization, right? From a descriptive position. Now let's shift towards something which is the next stage of it. Like, you have captured your data, but you're moving into a more diagnostic mode. What that means is the volume, the variety, and the velocity. What I mean by that, say you have captured the data, you have the volume of the data with you, and now you are able to parse through the data very quickly because you have a familiar understanding of what kind of sources these are. And then there's a variety of data, and you know exactly which sources are going to be used to trigger what kind of business outcomes. So you have started thinking about those business outcomes already, right? And you have started highlighting them to your business leadership. And you're spending a lot of time analyzing the data. You're still not in a very decision making mode, but you've at least
Right.
started analyzing the data. So that will become a diagnostic. Then you move to the third phase of the journey, and we have literally seen in the last 5 years an organization moving from one stage to another,
That's
and
the
it also
digital
depends.
transformation journey, right? You're
It's a
talking
part
about the
of the
digital
digital.
transformation journey. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, so for example,
Mhm.
now from descriptive to we move to diagnostics, and then now we move to a more predictive. Right now, you're comfortable with your data. You know your systems. You know your frameworks. You know what tools. You probably have a good team of data scientists who are regularly working on this. Maybe they are collaborating with the business owners to create business use cases, right? They are already onto this task. So, there would be actions. You will tell the business owners, the business leaders, saying that, can you look at these business impact? This is the outcome that will happen if you do one, two, three, right? And then decisions have started making on that. So you're triggering all of that. And probably a new element that gets added into this stage of predictive maturity AI is something called ethical implications. So, for example, if I use a retail case, right? As a retail company, you have the data of the customers, but do you want to use the data of the customers? You get what I'm saying, right? Do you want to say, for example, you know that the customer will walk in at this stage, you understand the customer goes from office to home, and there are the malls in, there are supermarkets and malls in between where your products are on the shelf. The customer has a usage pattern. Say, I'm just picking up an off case. Say, for example, he likes a particular kind of a fruit, right? And he usually has these on his way to work or way on home, and he picks up his shopping cart and his grocery shopping during these days. He likes to have a preference for a particular kind of a flavor or a fruit. You start putting these on the top shelf, or you start giving him messages on his phone through mobile analytics the moment he is near a geographical location of a particular retail store. And I'm just giving an offhandish example here. But do you want to use that? Do you want to use that regularly? Do you want to manipulate that kind of information for that? So you start thinking at this stage of predictive analytics, when you're comfortable with your environment, do you want to ethically use that data or not? I think that is a new element that gets added on the AI maturity. And of course, the
So getting the
ideal
correct
goal.
data from all different sorts of
Please.
people, right? You're talking about like not only some people who are frequently visiting, but also races, ethnicities, and as well as sex. We are collecting equal proportion of data before analyzing the
Absolutely.
problem. Correct? Yeah.
Absolutely. And then I think the ideal universe of for the AI maturity journey is where you are now, you are probably spending a very little time um, in capturing the data. You already have the data set for you, right? You have the tools and the frameworks to capture the data for you. You're also probably not utilizing a lot of time to analyze the data, because again, you have frameworks for that. At this stage, you're basically your leadership, your C-level leadership is actually making business decisions based on this kind of ecosystem that you have built. And you are in agile experimentation stages, right? It is a different digital journey of a company altogether. I mean, they think at a level which is not usual to maybe a company that is growing at this stage in AI journey, right? This is the true digital transformation that I would like to call it, right? These kind of companies are usually the disruptors in the market, right? Because they understand, and this social media, right? Correct, which is a big blue social media giant. I think that's a prime example of who they are as a prescriptive. They have the control of the entire universe of customers. They know exactly when they get up, what they do, when they brush, what they eat, what they prefer, who they talk to, everything, right? You have the data. So they are now at a stage of, they also understand their ethical responsibilities, and they can, if I can use the word, they can use this data to manipulate social, ethical, any kind of behavior in the ecosystem, right? Do they want to use it? How do they want to use it to bring about a change? I think that's the last stage of the highest, most AI maturity journey in an organization. And as business people, I think we keep pushing customers to go to that stage, and whatever we can do, we come in a very what part of it, the how, the purpose needs to be defined by the organization or the customers. Where do they want to go, right? We can always support them with that kind of, and to find the right kind of talent mix, again, that's the work. I mean, I'm just saying that from a representational service industry, that's what we do. But this is usually the journey that organizations at this times takes.
Yeah, so say somebody is going to has some ideas, want to boost the sales of their clients, or any typical organization, help them in digital transformation. So,
Yep.
how would you convince the C-suite? What are the parameters or metrics or ROI? Are you going to directly going to show them that this solution is going to impact? Is it just based on POCs or applying it from different areas? Or you, as a salesperson, you have to sell it, right? So you're the best person to guide us, like how we will sell this now AI solution. We have made it. Now how we are we going to sell it?
Look again. How we do it is, first and foremost, we try and understand the customer pain points, right? What their journeys are. For example, as I was giving you earlier, the example on the telcos, right? Um, when we analyze the SWOT for those kind of customers, it is very clear, like, a telco of that big a size, they're very competitive in the market, and they want to represent themselves as a technology giant. They want to optimize on their capabilities of 5G optimization. So we already understand. So we are not, again, we also have a maturity of journey when we are selling AI. We are not trying to sell our product or service or platform or IPs or frameworks. What we are trying to do is we are trying to understand what are the customer pain points, and which ones are the ones that we are capable of solving for them. So, for example, as I said, that if they are competitive in the market, well, how do we optimize the cost for them? So a C-level executive wouldn't want to talk to us saying that, oh, okay, so you have frameworks which are very agile in way, so you can, build this project, you can put up the entire application framework from on-prem to cloud platform. They do not talk. They have their, IT heads to do that, right? What they want to do is, okay, if I do put it in cloud, what's in it for me? Is it going to save cost, or is cloud going to be more risky for me? If tomorrow there is going to be a disaster, what is going to happen to the production system? How many millions of dollars will it save me to put it out on the cloud in the next 5 years? What's the cost of the ROI there? So that's the language that we use in, right? We talk to them in terms of, say, for example, if your competitors are at a stage where they are still looking at maintaining their systems when it gets breakdown, while you implementing these AI solutions, you will be able to prevent it before it comes in, right? You will be able to forecast the demands for your customers in the next 5 years, right? So we are trying to help you build business while you are in the progress of having a certain. If you have X, we will tell you how to make it X plus Y. So then that's where a C-level person will listen to you. Okay, tell me more. How do I do that? So then we tell them, look at predictive analysis. So we can look at the so then that will become a conversation how to so then that will become a conversation around how to apply AI in the sales department, for example, for that same
Mm-hmm.
telco company, right? Then we will talk to them about something like a lead scoring. So the demand generation will happen from the marketing. It will come to the sales department. What if we free up your salesperson's time to do what they do best, and we take all their information from their calendars, from their emails, from their calls. We put up an AI framework where they can start, listening to the sales call. I'm just making another case on hypothetically here. And then the AI starts telling as a AI sales coach, they start telling the sales rep how they could have better positioned that customer, what are the products that could be positioned to this customer based on their historical journey, what are the best leads, what are the best ways to articulate that particular product out. We can, also put up a system in place where something as easily operational, like, setting up calendar invites, right, on the CRM or on your Outlook system or whatever, right? So once you talk to the customer, here's an automatic follow-up call that will happen automatically. The salesperson doesn't have to look at it. The availabilities will
What
be
are the
matched
challenges?
out. So
So
it's happening.
how we address those challenges? It's all automatic, real time, addressing those
Absolutely.
concerns in live, and then running the businesses. So business should not break down for is 1 minute. We have seen Facebook breaking down, right? So businesses should not get halt at any time. So there should be fault tolerant AI systems that keep on alerting and have redundancy things inbuilt, so that everything keeps going. There should not be even a 1 minute breakdown time, right? fail over time.
Even if it is
So
there, what's the contingency plan for it? So even if it's as a vertical, if it's a telco, but every company will have a sales team, a marketing team, a product team, an R&D team, and every team will have its own issues, right? And AI can fit seamlessly across everything. So that is the language that we'll have to understand, right, from as an empath from the customer's viewpoint, right? Are you saving money? Are you doing a better time to market for them? Are you cost optimizing for them? Are they in a journey where they have already optimized their cost? Now they are on a growth journey. So you're talking about everything from growing their revenue in terms of market share, in terms of, maybe. So something interesting is AI can also help you in cross selling and upselling. Basically, upselling is nothing but you have an average size product and you can sell it at a premium price to a certain customer if they have a knack or a flair, or if they are at a level which is a little higher than the rest of the market, right? So AI can predict that kind of outcomes for you and tell that, hey, this customer is a likely, a target for you to upsell this product, right? Whatever you were selling at an average price, now you can sell at a premium price because the customer needs this. Maybe he's really in need of it, or maybe they really like to pay a premium price for an extra support or whatever it is, right? So AI can kind of predict that, and it can also help you cross sell among sales reps teams. For example, there's an application team and there's a hardware team. Both teams can collaborate together. AI can bring that predictive insights into what each of the team can sell to each other. So yeah, so that's the journey, and that's the kind of conversations that we usually take to customers.
yeah. So, any other pain points do you see in customers that are not getting addressed right now because maybe AI has not matured at that stage? So, do you were to highlight maybe one of them could be IoT. We are not that well developed organizations. Are very few places you will see the use of IoT and using machine learning, as well as robotics. So, what do you see? How is it going to go in the next few years, in the next decade, maybe? How these things are going to catch up?
um I would like to put the question back to you first, Shamisha. As a data scientist, what do you think on the industry? Where do you think?
Yeah, I think it will take some time. That's why my question is, how is the sales seeing it? The market, what's the demand for the market? Are these coming up, or is it just due to lack of talent that we are not able to build those solutions and enhance the business opportunities? Where is the problem actually? What do you think?
Um, Look, and this is not just a business or sales viewpoint. I think this is my personal viewpoint. First and foremost, AI is not always the solution, right? I know our conversation is around AI, but let me tell you what. AI is again a technology, a very important technology, but AI cannot solve everything, right?
Right.
If I can quote something interesting, is natural stupidity is no competition for artificial intelligence. No, I'm just joking. So there are places where AI projects can fail, right? There is no guarantee. It's not a magic wand, right? At the end of the day, it's a code and a structure. It's a program that is being built by people, right? It could be something like, say, again, we go back to the maturity journey of an organization, right? Where if you're trying to implement a complex AI data project in a organization which is not at the maturity level at this point of the time, they're just capturing the data, and you're trying to sell them something where it is analyzing or predicting the data, you're setting yourself for failure there, correct? If your data are in a transactional level, if you're storing your data in different kinds of variety, different kinds of places, and it's not able to capture the data, as you would know it as a data scientist, I think a high quality data is not just the data that is right, but something that is relevant. So for example, if I ask your as a social media person, right, if I ask you your address, and if you tell me your house address, it is the right answer, but it's not relevant for me, right? Then you tell me your email address. Now that's still right, but it's relevant for me at this point of the time. So you
Yeah,
get it, right? So
very,
high quality data.
very rightly
Yeah.
correlated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing, if I want to summarize, is one thing is not only data collection, collecting relevant data that could be useful for the same organization of the business,
Yeah.
and understanding where the organization lies in terms of its maturity in handling the digital
Absolutely.
transformations, right? So if you
Absolutely.
said and face it, you said prescriptive versus diagnostic, we have to analyze it. And what is the right solution that we can recommend for that organization depending upon the state where it lies, right? So and when we suggest
Yeah.
that we have to be more agile so that it happens in phases, and we get the right feedbacks, what is working for that organization, what is not working, and then take up towards a complete digital transformation journey, right? So it's not going to happen in one day. We have to analyze the
No,
phase by phase process and take up
unfortunately not.
agile processes. And you
Yeah.
also talked about the talent gap, right? So what do you think that budding data scientists or budding people who wants to sell data science problems, what this they should keep in mind, because this the AI is now much hyped and everybody's doing some data science course. So what could make things more successful, if you could highlight? Because everybody, I come across people, everybody is willing to take up some course. Now let's see that what is most useful and how we can make really some changes happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, to you.
Um, I think, yes, the way in the last 2 years, especially because of the pandemic, the way the digital transformation programs have got accelerated, super accelerated, I would say. A lot of the companies are not really ready for it. And look, as salespeople, we might go into organizations and sell fancy scripts and say that this is this and this is what. But at the end of the day, when a salesperson goes back, I mean, at least I would personally say that it is the right kind of people who deliver a project and execute are the real superstars, right? And it's extremely essential to figure out what that team of people are. And as I earlier mentioned to you, when we started out, the journey was finding that one unicorn person who's the data scientist who has excellent business skills. He can talk the business language, understand the business processes, and then translate it back to essentially the technology, take the technology and translate it back to business outcomes, do that. That kind of unicorn is really difficult to find, right? And it's unfair for one person to have it and do this at a scale, right? There are not a lot of people in that industry, and they come at a premium cost. So definitely there is a gap in the market at this point of the time, especially with data scientists, data analysts, data architects, AI architects. When I use data, I'm using it interchangeably. Maybe I'm a little naive here, but that's how I see. I mean, any person who works with data at some point or the other might want to also have an essential skill, at least have an preliminary understanding of AI technologies and network. It will definitely help them, right? um, so what is my personal understanding? A good data scientist is one who can look at large volumes of nonsensical data, big data as we call it, right? And still provide some useful insights that can be applied for the customer or the businesses to have outcomes. That's a good data scientist. But a great data scientist is somebody who's not just using data, right? They're also exploring the real world around them, right? So, for example, you are looking at a sales data and figuring out, what are the people who are at the bottom quartile and who are the top 75%. So then if that's just the predictive analysis and you're giving the insight, you're a good data scientist. A great person would probably see, okay, out of the bottom quartile, what are the specific projects in which they fail? Are there specific products that they cannot sell? Is there a particular line of technology that they are not able to? So they keep digging deeper and deeper. Is there a background of education that kind of triggers a better technology salesperson for this kind of a company? So you're thinking beyond just the data and you're trying to have a predictive analytics work for you from real world inputs as well, right? So that's a great data scientist. And anybody who's starting on that kind of a journey does not need to have like a 10, 15 years of experience. It's a very new technology. People fresh out of college can pick up, start learning about it, look at videos, and look at something that genuinely interests you. If you like computer games, look at natural language programming, NLPs, right? And start working on it, and how you can build games on it, how can you can put networks on it, how can you improve those characters out of it. If you are somebody who, say for example, you're in a if you like finance, look at insider trading, if that's something that interests you. So insider trading will have a lot of other different kind of uses. So I would say any person who's starting on their journey should not look at AI, should look at something that interests them, and then try to find a course that where implementation of that AI course will help them, right? Whether it's pharmaceuticals or you know banking or gaming or retail, whatever it is, right? So I think that's very important. You need to make AI to be a vocational application, not just a theoretical understanding. It'll never work like that. And then just
Yeah,
pick up projects. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely brilliant. Means it's like neither if it doesn't interest you how much ever you have done courses, that's not going to be successful in the longer run. So what should drive is, as you said, right, being having the acumen, right acumen, and digging into problems like where is the pain point, what can we do, what has already been done. I think in this context, maybe reading about what are the things that are coming up, reading research papers also maybe a little bit helpful for people, right? Where are the problems? How can I contribute in my small way? So may not be the organization is taking, I can make a GitHub contribution, I can make an open source contribution to build some libraries. So this might also
Absolutely. If you're a creative person, yeah, start looking at technologies like deepfakes. If that interests you, I mean, in a good way, of course. So yeah, the applications for AI is a very applied science, right? So pick up something that interests you, and then try to figure out how is AI. So then that will, trigger your interest.
Yeah, so absolutely. Means it's a very nice advice to your budding people or aspiring data scientists, as well as people who want to just make an impact using data science. And Mansi, we have talked about almost all the touch all the corners of it. Pitching the solution to C-suite, business development. Would you like to suggest anything like people would also keep in mind if they want to develop the business acumen as well? Like I understand that we have to study the problems and see that what has been done, what not been done, but to talk to people, to being I see sometimes that younger generation are lacking a lot of presentation skills. So how they present an idea, they know the things, they know very well, but to present it, or if you change the circumstance, they are not able to convince that this will work, make it, customize the solution. So for that, what can people do? Like should read books or find out, or
For creating better PPT, is that the question? A better
yeah, so
presentation skill, or
because yeah, because I know you are also part of different networks and do a lot of things, right? So you're not only working. So what is your suggestion to clarify so that people can be clear enough to convey their thoughts and meanings? So what they should do? So how did you become such a proficient salesperson? So what would you advise?
I think that's an inborn disadvantage that someone has to ask me to shut up. Otherwise, I keep talking. My father used to call me a chatterbox. So I think I just fit into this profession. There's nothing else to it. But on a more serious note, for any budding professional, AI or otherwise, right? Um, Look, these soft skills, like for example networking, presentation skills, are needed across most of the professions nowadays. Even as a fashion designer, you need to have a good presentation skills. um, so I think the first thing is you need to start talking to more people outside your ecosystem. And this was told to me by one of my mentors many years back, that there are three different types of networks that you have. One is your immediate network that you talk to and correspond to every day. The second are the ones that are the second level network that you only talk to when you need them, maybe a professional network or someone in your organization. And a third one is in the universe that you don't even have an idea of. They are third level contacts, maybe the contacts of the contacts of the contacts that you have, right? If you just keep going back and forth between your first and the second level contact, you will never be able to perhaps expand your level of thinking of the other things that exist, of what other people are doing. So it's important to be, if I can use the word, completely shameless, and just look up to people that you really admire, right, in your professional network around you. Just walk up to them and talk to them, saying that, hey, I have seen your journey. I saw your LinkedIn profile. See that you have started out maybe as a data scientist, or maybe as a software engineer, or maybe as a civil engineer, and today you're head of an application technology company. From civil engineering, I mean, how did you do this journey? What were you thinking? Most people are very happy to talk about it, right? So you really need to reach out to more people. They will tell you in their industries what are the problems that they are facing, what their personal journeys have been. They can probably also recommend you to other people who might be relevant for you on your journey. So networking is number one, but networking beyond the first and second level of networks, that's the only one that is effective. The first and the second one will anyways happen organically, right? So you have to really go out of that. The second one, as you said, presentation skills. And this is something, this is not at all something that cannot be practiced. It is very easy, as long as you're very clear about the thoughts and the ideas that you want to articulate. It is very easy. I mean, so presentation on maybe an PowerPoint, or maybe on a whiteboard, it doesn't really matter. These are the tools, right? You need to be very clear about what's the idea that you're articulating. Every idea that you're presenting out to somebody, um, step out of your own head for that moment. Always backwards, work backwards. I mean, that's what I at least try to do. So when I am trying to build a presentation, I work backwards and saying that, what is the impact that I'm trying to create on the audience, right? What is the business outcome? Why would they even listen to me? I mean, I doze off on most of the presentations. I mean, that's a secret. But after 15-20 minutes, my attention spans just starts dozing off. Most cases, not in some, I really get hooked to. And these presentations are where they really understand the audience, right? If an audience is joining that presentation, they have an expectation, right? If it's an AI use case that you're presenting, then and you're presenting it to, say, for example, technical folks, right? Talking to them about business outcomes is not going to help. You can only hook them when you're talking very technical, very specifically what technology we are using, or what's the IP that you're using, why this IP is better than another framework that you might have used in that case. So you have to understand that, and you start by asking your audience some question: what are their expectations from this presentation that they're doing? And you take those inputs and then start walking backwards and say, okay, so here's my idea. This is how it pans out, and this is how I think it applies to what are the expectations, whatever they have said. As simple as that. It could be a 3 slider presentation. It doesn't have to be like a 15 slider presentation. There's no one size fits all. So, and presentation skills doesn't have to be with a PPT always. It can be one-to-one conversation like you and I are talking at this point of the time. And it can be very well picked up. The more, again, I go back to networking, is the more you talk to people, the more you listen to people. You are the average of the 5 people that you have around you. A simple example of that is, the whole of the last couple of weeks, I have been working on a very important, a deal that we are working for a large customer. And I kept using the word RFP very often, right, in the calls. And my 5-year-old just walks in, and if she sees me busy nowadays, she just tells me, "Are you on an RFP call?" And I say, "Yes, I am on an RFP call. Can you just leave me alone?" So she's picked up the word. So I mean, well, that's some kind of learning that she's doing, and machines also learn like that, right? And that's how people should pick up. The more ideas you read upon, talk to real world people about, and can relate to. So you need to relate to the ideas. You can't look at artificial intelligence as a laminated technology that's just godlike. You'll have to relate to it in a everyday environment, just like the Shah Rukh Khan ad that we saw, right? It's a very relatable, very ground to earth kind of an idea, right? The technology is just a part of it that works in the background. That's exactly how you're supposed to think about AI.
Okay, great. Means great ideas, great mentorship tips, right, for the younger generation. So apart from that, your work and all, you are also part of women circles and all. What advice, anything do you have specifically for women? Because we see there is a lot of gaps in women picking up these things and being at the top leadership levels. Any
Uh,
specific pointers for women as such? Yeah.
Well, there are two things. One is specifically if you're talking about the science streams, the technology engineering streams, the STEM as the US calls it. We need more and women to come forward, to take roles in, say for example in AI. We need more data science scientists who are women. And look, it's not gender agnostic, but I think women have a fantastic inborn quality to predict the future in a lot of ways. I mean, we do it, every single day. As a mother, I'm sure you will relate to the fact that you must be telling your, kids every day, don't do this, and if they break something, you will go and tell them, I told you so. See, I told you so. Don't play around there. So they have a fantastic inbuilt, mechanism to do predictions for the future. They keep telling their husband, I told you so, you shouldn't have done that, I told you so. So I think we have great analytical skills as women, and we should really take it up. People should pay us money for using these analytical skills. So I really encourage more and more women to take up some form of it, as a salesperson selling AI technology, as a marketing person, working on products that AIs are making better, or as data scientists. I mean, whatever ways you can be associated. In terms of leadership, I think yes, definitely, that there's a lot of more work to be done. There's this new book that was launched by Indra Nui recently, and a
Yeah.
lot of people are talking about it at this point of the time. Yes, and she does say that you cannot have it all. Um, and that's true for any human being, not just women. But women, I think, do it a little harder because we try to be everywhere, almost omnipresent, right? We are trying to pick up our battles over at home, personally for us, and then at the work as well. So leadership positions, yes, I think by the time you are at your career journey and you're reaching that leadership journey, you need to have a clear vision why you need to be a leader. You don't always have to be. You can be a great team player and go back home and be happy about it. But if you are a leader, then what are the aspects in your own personal qualities that you want to envision. So maybe you are a very creative person, so as a leader you will understand enthusiastically what's the culture of the organization. If you are a very method oriented, a system oriented person personally, right? So then as a leader, when you're there, then you will put processes and systems in place which help people. Actually, you're not trying to change people there, right? You're trying to change the systems and processes which makes the organization fit better, so that people do not leave. Because again, going back to a service background, I think attrition of the right talent, even if we get data scientists, etc., they want to leave the organization very quickly. How do you retain these? So renage is an issue. As a leader, you have to be an evangelist in the AI. I mean, you are not just selling it, you have to really believe in it. So evangelizing the ideas internally in the organization is that much more important.
Right, right. Yeah, it's very important if, for attrition purposes, creating interest among people. So people may very talented people usually get bored if they don't find a very useful thing they are working on. So how to create
Yeah.
and create the interest and really make them sense that what they are doing is going to be so much valuable for not only for
Absolutely.
for their work, but also the impact they create. That's most important, right? Very nicely said, Mansi. So thank you for having you here. It's a wonderful pleasure for me to have you. So we can again catch up sometime when you have something to talk about, when you want to give new insights on sales, marketing, anything you would prefer to. So we can end
Next
this
time I would
session.
like to interview.
Yeah,
I would want to be
absolutely.
the interviewer, and I would want to interview you.
Sure,
And I would
sure,
want to
sure.
know how, as a data scientist, how do you perceive salespeople as? Do you find us clingy? Do you find us too pushy? And I'm just joking. It was wonderful chatting up with you, and I hope that it was of at least some value in these
Yeah,
60
of
minutes
course.
that we have spoken
Yeah.
to
So
people.
the video stays live in YouTube, and people, I will share the links again, post in social media once more. Yeah, thank you, Mansi. Thanks for your time. Have a
Absolutely.
nice
Have a
day.
great day. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.